Thank you, DJ. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is 5 minutes past the hour. Wherever it is you are joining us, welcome. Please feel free in the chat box to drop in where you are joining us from and introduce your name. We are about to start. Welcome to this session of launching the AU civic-tech Fund 2.0 and an official information session for everybody who is interested in applying. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a Q&A section for this call where you can post any questions that you have in the course of this session. And also, please note this session is going to be recorded, and we'll be sharing the slides and the recording with all participants and on the website of this application platform. So without any further ado, my name is Daniel Adunya. I'm the officer in charge at the AU Youth Division, and we are very pleased to welcome you to this session of the launch of the AU civic-tech fund. Now, let me start with the famous quote that Africa is the future of all things. With a rapidly growing youth population, rapid growing technology penetration, a huge and growing middle class, continued growth in the economy, we all know that Africa is the future and is about the future, with all its young people joining into the ranks of adulthood and the middle class population. But we also know a lot of young people, women, marginalized groups, people living with disability have been marginalized or have not been equitably serviced through different service deliveries on the continent to unfold their potential to the fullest. And here we see a great opportunity for Civic Tech Fund and Civic Tech Fund innovations playing a key role. It is for that reason the African Union Commission is joining hands with the GIZ and implementing partners in launching this Civic Tech Fund 2.0 initiative. So today's session, if we could have the next slide, please. We have the following program put together in front of us. First, we're going to have welcome and introduction what Civic Tech Fund is all about, both for those who already know Civic Tech Fund and also for those of us who have never heard what Civic Tech Fund could be. This is where we will get to know about the program. We'll have the opportunity, since this is the second cohort of the program, a testimony from a fellow who has been part of the first round of the Civic Tech Fund, and that would lead us to the launch of the 2.0 Civic Tech Fund. This session will be followed by information session, where we'll be presenting about what actually the fund is all about, who is eligible, when to apply, where to apply, and all the questions that you may have will be answered during this session. So with this program in mind, allow me now to officially progress into the opening session of this program. And first to speak, we're going to have the Director for Women, Gender and Youth of the African Union Commission, Ms. Prudence Nonkululeko Ngwenya, who would officially welcome us into this session and the launch of the AU Civic Tech Fund 2.0. Madam Prudence, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for handing me the floor. Let me start by greeting you all. Again, like Daniel said, depending on where you're coming from, special greetings from us at the African Union Commission. But also special greetings to the GIZ team led by Dr. Tobias, who's the director, and all of the colleagues and implementing partners that we work with and we worked with in the first tech fund, Ushahidi, and the entire Civic Tech Innovation Network. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon again, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to the launch of what Daniel called the 2.0, or the second edition of the African Union Civic Tech Fund. And this comes after the successful implementation of the first cohort. And today's launch is not only timely, but it's also crucial and important for harnessing the power of technology to drive citizen-led transformative action across the African continent. Some of you may be asking themselves, why the Civic-Tech Fund? Why is the African Union Commission and partners getting themselves into initiatives like this? But quite a number of things. The first thing that you may already know, Agenda 2063, which has 6 aspirations. The one of the aspiration, which is aspiration 6, speaks to a people-driven Africa, where people are playing a key role in the development of the continent, but it also speaks to unleashing the potential of its women and young people. Now, it's important for us, and in terms of even recognizing the central role that Africans can play in the development of the continent, the AU Civic-Tech Fund is a Pan-African initiative that was put in place to underscore the role of meaningful citizen participation as per the Agenda 2063 aspirations, and also how then do we make sure that indeed concretely the citizens of the continent are participating and addressing pertinent developmental challenges on the continent. With over 453 million Africans aged between 15 to 35, it is evident that the role of Africa's youth is instrumental. When we speak about unleashing the potential of young people, it is because of this important demographics. And it's also because if we're speaking about Africans playing a key role in their own development, we're also speaking about making sure that we don't leave behind this important demographic. What is central to our mission at the Women, Gender and Youth Directorate is to support, develop and scale youth initiatives, particularly those aligned with Agenda 2063 and the 1 Million Next Level initiative. Therefore, supporting initiatives that leverage technology for civic engagement and creating an empowering environment for tech-led solutions to address societal challenges, especially those affecting young people, is our priority and pivotal to the continent's progress. It is in this line that with the generous financial support, and I want to thank profusely GIZ because they started this journey with us. And honestly, it is a journey to say, could we perhaps test if there are things out there, there are solutions out there that citizens on the continent might have a better solution, might have a better way to addressing some of the challenges that we have on the continent. So the Civic-Tech Fund gives us the opportunity to test new approaches to doing things with the aim or in view of scaling them, piloting them and scaling them and making sure that they become widespread and they become a way of life. So we seek to promote citizen engagement and drive digital innovation and democratic governance specifically and development spaces by supporting initiatives that strengthen citizen engagement through innovative tools and digital technologies. In particular, the fund recognizes innovative civil tech initiatives as influential catalysts for the continent's transformation, contributing towards a truly citizen-driven development agenda. There's a couple of things that we learned from the first edition of the AU Civic-Tech Fund. And also this is what is important for us in terms of now applying these lessons into the second cohort. The first cohort supported 14 civic tech organizations across the continent. And these organizations were able to scale their initiatives ranging from platforms that facilitate citizens' participation in decision-making processes to platforms that ensure accountability and promote transparency in governance systems. However, the grant does not only allow selected organizations to scale their initiatives, but also provides them with capacity building opportunities and fosters collaboration among them. So those are some of the things that we did in the first edition. And building onto the first edition, this year we're looking at 15 organizations that are set to benefit from the fund. And this organization will each receive 15,000 euros in financial assistance to scale up their initiatives. And the launch today obviously reaffirms the immense potential of African youth in shaping the continent's trajectory towards a more inclusive and sustainable future. Before I conclude my remarks, I'd like to take a moment and recognize our shared value partners who have made the AU Civic-Tech Fund a success. And this is GIZ, Ushahidi, and the other civic-tech partners that have also walked this journey with us. I again wish to thank all our partners, the entire network, other key stakeholders whose collaboration has made all of this successful. In conclusion, the transformation journey of our continent requires collective efforts from all of us, particularly the young people. I extend my best wishes for success to all participating organizations. Your dedication and innovation are indeed instrumental in shaping the brighter future of Africa. And lastly, I want to say to all those that are applying, the organizations who are here today, think not outside the box. Think like there is no box at all. And we're going to be looking for those innovative things that will most likely have got the potential for scale and for reach and agility as well. So if you may, you can say that I've made you copy a bit because I'm already letting you into some of the things that we're going to be looking for. Thank you very much. And I want to stop here for now, and I'll stay on and listen through the meeting. Thank you very much. And I hand over to you, Daniel.
Thank you so much, Director Prudence, for those encouraging words and also putting the context why the African Union has embarked on this initiative of an African Union Civic Tech Fund. And I like that vision of imagining as if there is no box. Thank you so much profoundly, Madam Director. Our next speaker is Dr. Tobias Steele, who is the Director of the GIZ Office to the African Union. For his remarks, Dr. Tobias, you have the floor. Tech team, if you could kindly allow Dr. Tobias to speak.
Noted. I will on it now. Dr. Tobias, please check now.
Yes. Okay. Now it's working. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you, Daniel, and good afternoon, everyone. Madam Prudence Ngwenya, Director of Women, Gender and Youth Directorate. Thank you so much for these very inspiring words. Professor Geshi, the entire team from the Civic Tech and Innovation Network, and Ushahidi, our partners for this initiative, civic tech organizations, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to really warmly welcome all of you, especially the civic tech organizations that have joined this launch call for the Civic Tech Fund. My name is Tobias Thiel, not like it says under the, I logged in with a link from a colleague. I think you will believe me that my name is not Lisa. Let me begin by congratulating the AU Commission on the launch of the second cycle of the AU Civic Tech Fund. The fact that this is actually the second round is certainly a testimony to the success of the first one. So that makes me very happy. I would also like to express our sincere appreciation for the constructive and fruitful cooperation that we have between the African Union Commission and Germany on not just on the Civic Tech Fund, but really on all matters of digital transformation through the Datacipation flagship project, which is really a joint endeavor. Through Datacipation, Germany has supported, among other things, the implementation of the digital transformation strategy. And I'm very proud that we have jointly developed some really concrete products and measures, which really can show how we can really practically put digital transformation in place. And I would really like to stress that this was very much a joint effort, because this, I think, runs through all of our cooperation with the African Union. We work in a very co-creative way in terms of an equal partnership. The AU Civic-tech Fund is really one of those very successful examples. So what is it really? What is the AU Tech Fund, and how do you explain it to people who don't know it? I would actually like to do that by by giving a concrete example and sharing the story of one of the grantees that benefited from the first cycle of the AU Civic-tech Fund. And that is the story of the Organization for Equality and the Feminist Macroeconomic Alliance of Malawi. For Equality and the Feminist Economic Alliance in Malawi, they focus on an aspect that is often comes too short. They look at really deepening the knowledge, capacity, and also skills of young women and their allies to engage and influence on macroeconomic policies and frameworks. And they do so by using accessible digital tools. For example, they had this feminist macroeconomics academy, and which was very beneficial. They were selected out of a total of 511 applicants. So in the first cycle, so you can see that there's also a strong competition of many good organizations. And through the financial support, but also technical advice, they worked on upgrading the existing learning academy for women. They introduced, for example, the translation into local languages. They integrated a USSD platform. I learned in the preparation of this speech that that's a fancy way of having a system that sends SMS and WhatsApp to women, to reach women in local communities and access key information that they otherwise wouldn't have. Similar to the For Equality and the Feminist Macroeconomic Alliance in Malawi, there were also 13 other organizations from a total of 6 African countries who were supported on digitalization. I'm also very glad to see on the agenda the Justice Code Foundation from Zimbabwe to share a first-hand account because they were also part of the first cycle. Perhaps a few points why I find the Civic-tech Fund particularly interesting. I would just like to highlight three aspects on that. I think one part where the AU Civic-tech Fund stands out is that it supports already existing and tested the digital tools in the space, in the civil society space. So it's not really so much about inventing new tools, but it really focuses on how to scale already tested approaches. And as a successful applicant, you will receive financial support and to build your strategy for scaling and broadening already existing tech solutions, be it beyond borders, regions, or be it in terms of technical development. So scaling is possible in both horizontal or also vertical ways. A second point I believe is worth mentioning is that the Civic-tech Fund really brings partners together who are spearheading civic tech on the continent. So with the Civic Tech Innovation Network, we have a very strong ecosystem facilitator on board. Ushahidi itself is a successful civic tech solution that managed to scale across a large number of countries across the globe. And in the course of the Civic Tech Fund, you will get to connect with experts, both in terms of IT, product design, but also business development, and get various opportunities to exchange and learn with them. Third, or last but not least, I believe the Civic Tech Fund really stands out because it's linking to the African Union and its policymaking environment. And with the African Union spearheading this dedicated initiative on civil society, this is really an acknowledgement on the role that it plays to promote good governance and transparency and citizen engagement. And in the course of the Civic Tech Fund, you will also get an opportunity to learn about more about the policy making of the AU and participate in relevant sessions. And in the first cycle, for example, grantees formulated also some recommendations that were then further on discussed at an expert meeting of ministers on youth, culture, and sport. So they're really great opportunities for new linkages and partnerships here. Allow me to close my opening remarks with some words of appreciation. I would like to congratulate the Directorate of Women, Gender and Youth in the AUC for spearheading this initiative. I think it's a very visionary program, and we're very glad to be partnering with you on this initiative. We would also like to thank our implementing partners, the Civic Tech Innovation Network and Ushahidi, for partnering with us on the second cycle. And in this spirit, I really look forward to a very exciting launch and hope that many of the organizations that are participating today will apply for the AU Civic Tech Fund. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tobias Steele, for those words of encouragement and taking us through an envisionment how such a civic tech fund operates and works, and what kind of impact it has brought. And indeed, the cooperation between the African Union and GIZ has brought up this innovative initiative into reality. So once again, thank you for your remarks and partnership in this program. Our next speaker is Professor Geshi Kariuki Sabina. She is the organizer of the Civic Tech Innovation Network at the Wits University School of Governance in South Africa. The Civic Tech Innovation Network is the implementing partner of the second cohort of the Civic Tech Fund, and she'll tell us a little bit what is this cohort all about, what makes it unique, and that way we can have some more understanding about this year's launch and program. Professor Geshi, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, moderator. This is Geshi Karuri Sabina, and I wanted to start by all of the greetings. Bonjour, bon dia, salam alaikum, jambo, ekaro, sanibonani. But I think I have to stop there. They're more on the continent than one can accommodate in the time we have. Joining you from Johannesburg, South Africa. We are with the Civic Tech Innovation Network, which in partnership with Ushahidi, based out of Nairobi, Kenya, are serving as the implementing partners for AUCTF. And in fact, I should say we are honored to be serving as the implementation partners because I know, at least for our network, we were a very eager observer and supporter of the first round of the fund. And I think, as the moderator said, what is special or unique about this round, I think a lot of it is our desire to learn from what has been happening in the context, but of course also to learn from what was experienced in the first round. If all goes well, we'll maybe hear a testimony from somebody from the first round and just see how we can continue contributing concretely to Africa's development, as well as to our Agenda 2063 objectives. I want to recognize, I think, the capable collaborative or cooperation of the AUC and the GIZ, who of course have us assembled here for this opportunity and this convening, but also to recognize all of you as the innovators who are on this call and your enthusiasm and your work, because if it weren't for you, this would not be possible or useful to do. I'm going to ask to go to the next slide, where in some ways I will give a brief repetition of what has already been indicated as what the fund is trying to do. And then after we've gone through the launch, we'll go through in a little bit more detail for potential applicants and supporters, just to really get into the detail of how it's going to work. So a first and key objective is this idea of strengthening citizen trust and trying to foster active participation in these sustainable civic tech initiatives, as we've heard, which are not necessarily new, but are possibly novel, are innovative in trying to address societal challenges. And those would be challenges that include gender equality, environmental justice, income inequality, human rights issues, really whatever those issues are that are closest to your communities, and are possibly also reflected in the vision for Africa expressed through the African Union. We are also looking to cultivate robust and resilient civic tech ecosystems. So this is about empowering citizens through improved access and utilization of information and fostering accountability within Africa and beyond. And that's something we believe can be done through innovations in the civic tech space. And then thirdly and finally, this idea of driving improved, inclusive, and transparent governance and policy development at all levels, local, national, and regional, through these civic tech initiatives. And by doing that, really promoting citizen collaboration and participation. So we've got these three objectives. We want to do development, we want to improve the ecosystems, and we also want to really ensure that it's about participation and participatory democracy. So these are the pillars that are driving the idea of the 2024 AU Civic Tech Fund. In practical terms, as has been mentioned, we're talking about real cash grants in the amount of 15,000 euro that will be awarded to 15 grantees across the continent for a period of about a year. And this is really to support specifically replicable and scalable civic tech, citizen-led initiatives that are on the continent, that are from the continent, and that have this potential to have the impact we've spoken of. I'm just looking to see whether we've got our, okay, yes. So Courtney Mukoyi is here with us today, and I'll be handing over to him shortly. And the idea there is that you've heard from those who are supporting the fund. You've heard briefly, and you'll hear more from those of us who are helping to implement the project. But it's perhaps really, really important to hear from people who have actually been through it. And so, Courtney, I'm going to hand over to you. Courtney is from Justice Code. They were Civic Tech Fund 1.0 grantee, and we'd like to invite you just to share your account that might either inspire or hopefully not scare away the potential new grantees. Welcome, Courtney.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Please carry on.
All right. Thank you very much for organizing this, and hello to everyone. I am so excited to share with you our journey as Justice Code Foundation from the time when we applied and during the times of our implementation and some of the opportunities that we got through the period of implementation, not just for the beneficiaries of the program that we're carrying out, but also as the team that was carrying out the program. So first and foremost, when we came across the opportunity, we applied, and our solution was mainly related to elections. So what we wanted to solve was a problem of voter apathy among young people in Zimbabwe. And we were addressing this with a very simple tool, a very simple tech tool that that is accessible for both rural and urban young voters. And when we realized the problem that we had in our society, mainly related to voter apathy among young people, we backed our application with statistics, with examples, such that, in my opinion, that was also one of the factors that contributed to us getting the award, because we could actually paint a clear picture of what the problem was, giving even real statistics of the challenge that is in our community. Number one. Number two, we also presented a very simple tool. So it's a chatbot built over WhatsApp, and statistics by then indicated that more than 43% of internet usage in Zimbabwe was accounted for by WhatsApp alone. So you could see how the tech platform was going to be easily adopted and easy for people to use. Then, given that, we also presented our solution in such a way that it was easy to scale across the continent. And given the technology that we were using, it's a technology that is common across the continent, number one. Number two, elections are always a thorn in the flesh, especially in most African countries. And the democratic transition is across Africa is something that is still demanding the attention of us as civic-tech activists. So that is also, in my opinion, the reason why I believe we got picked. And along the way, along the application, we also mentioned the collaborations that we're going to build over. So the relationships that we had created across the continent and even across the country made it easy for us to present a case that we were a suitable candidate to do this project and to scale it not just across the country, but even into other parts of the continent as well. So along the journey, when we got this support, it wasn't just financial support, but it was also support that was technical. And we got people who were helping us with our software. Some of the grantees also got people who were developing their websites and other technologies that they needed. So those are the various resources that we were exposed to. And in addition to that, us as the team that were handling this grant, we also got exposed to opportunities that helped us to grow and have much exposure into the world of technology and civic engagement. So these are the opportunities that I'm sure many of you would be exposed to and would be able to benefit from. And I'm very much confident that new solutions are coming from across Africa, and you guys are the ones that are going to lead this. Are going to lead this after the work that we've done, and to build upon the work that we have done. So this is what I have for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Thank you so much, Dr. Geshi, for those elaborative contributions to clarify more what the Civic Tech Fund 2.0 is all about. Indeed, what perhaps makes the Civic Tech Fund even more interesting or innovative is the collaboration not only between the African Union and the GIZ, but also the innovative implementing partners who are actually going to carry out the day-to-day work, particularly the civic-tech fund innovation network that is led by Dr. Geshi, but also Ushahidin, who is going to deliver on capacity building and training courses for the selected grantees. So in fact, I believe even beyond the financial grant that the winners are going to receive, the 12 months of capacity building and continental level networking and learning that is going to be delivered through Ushahidin is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, which hopefully would elevate our civic tech organizations to a new height. Because definitely young people coming up with solutions and solving problems of Africa are the true champions of change on this continent, and also the beacon of hope of what Africa holds and what the potential for Africa is. So thank you so much, and wishing us all good luck. So now, as we proceed into the launch of the Civic Tech Fund 2.0, allow me perhaps for 1 second to stop screen sharing our tech team, and allow me to ask everybody to turn on the camera that we can all have our beautiful faces in our screen, and we can quickly perhaps take a family picture to memorize this launch ceremony of 2.0. There they are. We're seeing a lot of nice, beautiful smiles. I see in the chat box there are people from Morocco, from Windhoek, from Zambia, from Lagos, from Addis Ababa, from Nairobi. Great to see you all. And I'll be doing a countdown from 5, and then you're going to give us your biggest, most smile that you have. So in 5, 3, 2, 1. Tech team, I hope you have captured beautiful pictures. And with that, we go back to our launch screen. All right, the tech team, if you could put the next slide.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us at the launch of the second edition of the African Union Civic Tech Fund.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. The application is now officially open. Through the link you'll find on the barcode. I would ask the tech team that we avail the link in the chat box so that we can move to the information session of this. All right, of this civic tech application process. So as you can see, from today, the application is open. It's going to be open for exactly 1 month until 12th of May 2024. There is a dedicated website where you can read more about the information. And let me reiterate, perhaps also apologizing for all our colleagues who do not speak English, because I've seen those participating from Cote d'Ivoire, from Mozambique, where don't necessarily speak English. Feel free to share your questions even in French or Portuguese. We'll do our best to respond to you. We'll make available the application information also in French on the website so that you can access it and understand better. But we do apologize that today we're not able to provide live translation for the session, but we do want to make sure that this application is inclusive and as diverse as possible. So with that, allow me to hand over for the next session, for the information session, for Dr. Geshi and her team, who will take us through the application process and answer any questions in detail. From my end, I thank you so much for the official welcome and opening session of the AU civic-tech Fund 2.0, and wishing all applicants the very best in the application. Dr. Geshi and team, over to you.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I think I should take a moment maybe just to clap for the launch of the application. I hope you're all excited to see that that is now open and available. We are going to be going into the next segment. Yes, I see lots of cheers going on there in the background. Thank you so much. Hopefully this will be an exciting time. You know, in this space, one of the issues often is the lack of support. And I think what we are saying is this is going to be an opportunity that is, yes, financial resources, but so much more. And we believe that there are innovators among you who can certainly benefit from that. So we're going to go back to our slide deck and go into what we're calling the info session segment. Yes, okay, here come the slides. And you will be hearing from ourselves at CTIN, but also from the partners at Ushahidi. I've got here with me our colleague Joseph Kirai. He will be coming on board. And what we are going to be covering is basically who is eligible to go for this grant, what's the application process, if you were successful for the 15, what can they look forward to in terms of the grantee journey and experience. And we'll go into a Q&A segment. Regarding the Q&A, some of you have already found the Q&A button on your screens. Please feel free to capture your questions there. We will be responding to those in that segment. We'll also be able to receive your questions on the chat if you're struggling with the Q&A function. And so please do feel free to begin capturing. If there are any questions we're not able to directly respond to today, we will do so in due course, and we've already activated, as you will see on the web page, a Q&A section where we will continuously just update any issues people are raising that may require a collective response. So let's go to the next slide here. Who is eligible to apply for the AUCTF round 2? So you are absolutely invited to apply if you are an African innovation or organization or initiative, and you are actually registered or domiciled in an African Union member state. So that's the first thing. You have to be an African initiative to apply for the fund. You also have to have a project that, of course, is aligned to the objectives that we shared earlier. So it has to be a project that's committed to leveraging a digital technology for civic engagement, for transparency, and or community-driven development. And that's all very clear in the call, as you'll see on the website. So it has to be aligned. And finally, you are led by and addressing the challenges that are faced by African women, youth, and marginalized groups. So there's a very strong inclusion criteria here. We apply this both in looking at the teams that are applying, but also obviously in the projects that you are nominating for the grant. And so we want to see that kind of quality reflected. So if that is who can apply, who cannot apply? So if we can click on, if you already received an AUCTF grant, so dear Courtney, who is here, for example, was a first round grantee, but you will be ineligible to apply for the AUCTF again. Of course, that is if you are a successful grantee in the first round. Secondly, if you are actually a subsidiary of a large international organization or some other non-African entity, then you will not be eligible to apply. So we're really looking for African organizations that are genuinely just that. If you are not registered in any way, although there is a caveat given on the website explaining in a bit more detail that you could have an affiliation that gives you that registration. But as you can imagine, if you are named as a grantee, there has to be a way to contract you. So you have to have some sort of formal status in one of the member state countries. If you are essentially a private corporation or a government agency, you are not eligible to apply. And finally, if you have been blacklisted or on any of the international lists or national lists, and we will do some due diligence, you will not be eligible to apply. So hopefully this doesn't discount too many of you, but this gives you a sense of who can come in and who is not welcome. If we can move to the next slide, please. This will just tell us something about what are the application requirements. So you've heard you've got exactly a month from today and the dates line up well. So the 12th of May is when applications will certainly close. The application form is quite simple. It's an online application form. We will not be receiving emailed or snail mailed or any other kinds of applications. You will have to complete and submit the online application. It's very clear which fields are mandatory. You will also be required, as we said, you have to be registered in some way, either through your affiliate or directly. So the company registration document would need to be submitted. You will be required to send some kind of proof of activity as an organization. You will have to send in the budget and financial management structure for the funds you are proposing to receive or requesting to receive. There is going to be an indication required of a sustainability strategy. Again, what we're trying to do is to look at projects that are viable and scalable, but that also means in terms of them being viable, that there's already some sense of how this would be sustained beyond the grant period. And so we'd be looking to see that in the application, and then a letter of recommendation from at least one party. So all of this will be very clear in the application form. There will also be a contact email address. We ask you not to abuse that. It really ought to be for questions that are not covered in the FAQ or are not self-evident in the form that is there. So trust the form. If you submit the information and if you are eligible, you should be hearing back from us. So those are really the administrative elements in terms of who is eligible and how you go about applying. It's fairly straightforward. We've kept it as easy as possible. I'm now going to hand over to our very capable partners in Nairobi, Joseph Kirai, who will just go a little bit further into telling you about what it looks like to actually be in the program from the journey perspective. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you, Geshi. Thank you, everyone. We are very excited as Ushahidi to be the implementing partners in the CTF, AUCTF 2.0. We are looking forward to sharing our experience in the last 16, 17 years in the civic tech space. Who is Ushahidi? Maybe I'll just give a brief background of who we are. We are a technology company that tries to, we develop technology that helps people everywhere to easily gather data and create insights that help them tackle the problems that matter most to them. What is our role in this project? We will be providing technical assistance, and our work will be mainly to diagnose the gaps and the critical needs from the selected partners, the 15 grantees. And so that will now enable us to provide the contextual training and capacity building based on the gaps that we see. And the aim is to open spaces for you as civil tech organizations to learn best practices, for example, insights and strategies for maximizing your impact. And so we will, of course, be learning this from experts since we've been here for the last 17 years in the civil tech space. And also, we will be creating sustainable plans to ensure that you are able to thrive and to scale. I'll ask to move to the next. I'll just take us through briefly the grantee journey. And so on June 2024, we will have the notification where grantees will be notified, the 15 grantees of their successful application. And then it will be followed closely, still in June, where we will contract the grantees. They'll be able to sign their contract and also submit the needs assessment forms, which will now enable us to tailor-make the trainings for them. In July 2024, we will have an online meet and greet just to enable us to, meet and get to know each other. And then immediately after in October, following, the onboarding call, we will have grantees meet at the CTIF conference in Joburg. This is just it's a big conference that happens where civic tech organizations meet and share their experiences. Followed closely in November, we will pilot the projects, November to February 2025, where we will pilot the projects based on the trainings. And then in March 2025, we will have the project showcase. And then finally in June 2025, we will have the grant period come to an end. Please move to the next, finally. Also, just take us through the capacity building journey, just to see how, the experiences of the grantees throughout this process. In June to July 2024, will be the project initiation period where we will be onboarding and contracting. And then, within this period as well, we will do the needs assessment. And then, the needs assessment will now help us develop the curriculum. Then in July to February 2025, we will be running the training workshops, having created the curriculum based on the needs assessment. We will train the modules, at least 5 of them. And then we will have CTIF convening, which I echoed in the previous presentation. And then, the master classes will follow closely. And then we are very keen on the funding and sustainability plans. We will definitely train on that, but also we will have the grantees have an opportunity to just present their funding and sustainability plans. And then from March to June 2025 will be the piloting and the advocacy, where we will have the grantees pilot the interventions in their target community. So based on the trainings, then they will be given a chance to pilot the interventions in the target communities. And then we will finally have a period to do advocacy and showcase the projects. I think that's it. Back to studio.
He says back to studio. Thank you so much, Joseph. I think that's a very useful glimpse into what you can expect when you come into the process. So coming up next, I'd like to just invite onto the stage, Ms. Siwe. Siwe, who will probably come onto camera just now, is going to be, in a way, the manager helping to hold things together as we go forward. Siwe Ntombela, I'm just going to invite you to come in to take us into our Q&A segment. I think we are probably running pretty close to time, but we'd like to take as many questions as we can. So if you need to raise a hand, please feel free to do that. But we are also watching the chat and the Q&A. Please post as many as you can. We'll answer. Others will be responded to online as indicated. Over to you, Siwe.
Thanks, Geshi. Welcome, everyone, and thanks again for joining the session. As Geshi has mentioned, my name is Siwe Ntombela. I'll be the project lead for the AUCTF project. I just want to reiterate what Geshi has said in terms of in the chat to please look through the application guidelines that have been shared in the chat so that we ensure that we're answering questions that have not been covered in our guidelines. So I just want to go quickly to the Q&A section. And the first question I just wanted to raise to the panelists, I'll just read out the question from an anonymous participant. My team were finalists of the first round, and we raised concerns on perceived preferences by the first cohort's judges. How sure are we that the selection process will be fair and impartial? How sure are we that ideas won't be stolen? How is intellectual property being respected in this cohort? I wonder if, Geshi, you can provide a response to that.
Yes. So I think in terms of the selection process, Siwe, and to the person who asked the question, it's an important one. There's a very, very transparent process that the collaborating partners and as well as ourselves as the implementing partners have gone through to really identify a fairly representative selection committee, which is not the same as the steering organizations. So it goes beyond, it includes actors in the civic tech space, it includes people from different geographic parts of the continent, and a very explicit process that goes through several stages just to make sure that there really is objectivity in the selection. Having said that, it's important that you note that there are multiple criteria being applied in here. So if, for example, it turned out that we had 15 excellent ideas that all came out of Dakar, Senegal, we may not necessarily be able to award 15 grants to Dakar, Senegal. So there are other criteria beyond just, how brilliant the idea is. There are questions of what issues they're addressing. There are questions of representativity, and you'll see that there are multiple criteria. But I think from the perspective of process and what those criteria are, all of that is being made as transparent as possible and will probably be publicly auditable. So I think there should be no issue there. The issues of IP are always a big one, and I think I saw somebody already mentioning it on the chat. Often, many of us in the civic tech space are working on principles of open source, open data, open science. And so I think it's important that you are aware of that. I mean, there's nothing that will be done through the project that will look to exploit or expose people unduly, but that is something you need to come in being aware of. This is not a sort of startup incubator space where you're holding private intellectual property. If that's the kind of work you're doing, then this is probably not the right space for you. So please read and understand what the nature of civic tech is and see whether this is a suitable grant for you. Thanks. Over to you, Siwe.
I'm seeing more questions in terms of what kind of organizations are eligible to apply, and there was a question already being responded to in the Q&A section around if government agencies are also eligible to apply. So I just want to prompt everyone to just also check the answered questions in the Q&A. But Geshi, besides an NPO, what other organizational structures are allowed? George is asking.
Thanks for that. And I thank you, Yasmin, for responding to the one about municipal governments. I think that is well responded to. Besides NPOs, civic tech organizations take many forms. So some of you might be registered as limited corporations or any other form. And that's why when we made the point, we didn't say that private companies couldn't apply. We said large corporations couldn't apply. So you could be registered in any form. Quite frankly, I suppose it can be small entities to almost individual entities. What is important is that it is some entity that can be contracted in this space. If you have an uncertainty about the nature of registration you hold, please send a query through the email address on the website, and we'll be able to verify and come back to you whether there is any concern. And I think the question about whether people can enter ventures or coalitions to apply, that's also quite okay, as long as there's a primary partner who will be the contracted party. So there has to be a contractable and accountable partner within that coalition. There has to be a lead. And I suppose that also applies to the issue about a tech startup. Yes, absolutely, you can apply, but please take note about those points about IP, because you might find that it's not the right kind of space, perhaps, for the kind of project you're doing. So no real limitation as to the type of entity as long as it fits the broad criteria.
And in terms of the kind of the stage of development of the organizations, we did mention that we are looking to fund organizations that are looking to scale and expand their reach. I'm seeing, Yaz has already answered the questions in terms of our new civic tech organizations eligible. There was also a question in the chat asking if new projects, for example, are allowed to apply for the grant, and we are more looking for organizations that have been established, as Geshi mentioned, the different criteria that you need to have registered or partner with a registered organization. I'm not sure if there's any more questions. I'm seeing in the question and answer session, someone said, I believe that the inability to provide feedback on unsuccessful proposals reflects incapacity to assess all proposals effectively. Please reconsider that position. I think, Gesh, you did mention around the selection committee process, but maybe you want to comment on that one.
Okay, I think we can assure you that all proposals will be looked at. In the first round, there was a huge volume of applications, and I think both Siwe and I can attest to, we have seen the spreadsheets where all of them were really accounted for in some way, and the same process will be followed. I think the issue of not providing feedback is just, I mean, you can imagine if we receive 1,000 applications, of which 15 are ultimately successful, the process of individually contacting, 985 organizations is not something tenable. And that's not an unusual practice, I think, in the space. So people who are successful will be contacted. And the date, I think, of announcement is also made very clear. So you'll know that if you don't receive anything by that date, that you have not been successful. And very shortly after, probably the names of the successful organizations will be published. So at least there shouldn't be confusion about whether you are successful or not. But I think the admin overhead of having to engage with that volume of organization individually is not a capacity that is currently on hand.
Great. Two more questions, Geshi. Is an individual able to apply, and can organizations propose more than one idea?
Okay, the second question is an interesting one. I don't know if you know. In fact, I don't know whether people can submit more than one idea. Can we come back on that one? Because I don't know if there is a position on that. Intuitively, but please come back to the FAQ to check on this in about a week. But intuitively, I would say as long as you're aware that your ideas are competing with each other, because I doubt that the same organization would be given 2 awards. So maybe that's just something to consider, but we will make sure we post on the FAQ a response about that issue, whether you can have more than one application or maybe participate in more than one consortium. I think we should come back to you on that. What was the first question, Siwe? Sorry, I missed the first part.
Individuals, are people allowed to apply as individuals?
Yes, I think we've had this conversation before, and I believe as long as there's some contractable entity, it's not impossible. But remember, if you're an individual that has no, so I believe for the contracting process, you would have to be to have a tax, profile and have a bank, be banked and that sort of thing. So I believe that's the case. Again, we'll clarify that very specifically on the FAQ. But my understanding from the contracting side is as long as you are a sort of an entity that has some sort of in South Africa, for example, we'd call it a tax clearance. You have the ability to prove that you're a taxed entity and that you have a bank account. Obviously, it should be possible. But Siwe, if we can please also confirm that one on the FAQ.
I don't see any more questions in the chat. I wonder if there's anyone who wants to ask any questions. I'm not sure if people can. Okay. Is there a list of members of the previous cohort? Yes, we do have that list. And we have actually looking to profile all of the organizations that have been part of the AUCTF. So you will be able to see some of the previous projects that have received the fund. I'm seeing Yvonne has their hand up. If you'd like to unmute and ask your question, Yvonne.
Hi. Yeah, I dropped a question. I don't know if it was addressed or maybe I missed it. I was asking if a coalition can apply.
Yes, I think I responded to that question, Yvonne. We said that there can be a group application or a joint venture or coalition, as you call it, as long as there is a clear lead partner who is contractable. So there would have to be a lead entity or registered body that can be contracted. So if, for example, it's CC Hub with 5 partners, if CC Hub is the lead, then the contract will be with the one entity. It can't be with a consortium that doesn't have any clear registration. I don't know if that's clear enough or if we're not getting to the point of it. Yvonne, are you covered? I think I see a thumbs up on the question. Oh, no, that's not by her. I'm not sure, Siwe, if she's answered or not.
I think so. She put her hand down. I think it's covered. I'm not seeing any more questions. Please feel free. We still have a bit more time for you to enter your questions in the Q&A. We've responded around the previous cohort.
I believe Nati has some questions that have come through from YouTube. I don't know if he wants to read those in or paste them in.
I'm not sure I understand it necessarily, but I think the question says, pyrolysis plant project eligible for the grant. I suppose, yeah, I'm not very clear on what that means, and what a pyrolysis project would be.
Sorry, Nati, we can't hear you. There's a terrible echo. Could you either put it on the chat or have the other person mute?
All right, put it on the chat.
Siwe, I think there's you're busy answering a question.
Is there a limit on what an organization has as a yearly budget? I'm not sure what Subilo means by that. Maybe you want to come in and vocalize your question.
Subilo, do you want to explain your question? Oh, he's muted. He's unable to. I think somebody would have to unmute Subilo.
You should be able to unmute now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was asking if there's like a yearly limit as to how much an organization's annual, there's a limit as to how much an organization's annual budget is. Like anyone above, let's say, $1 million cannot apply for this fund or something like that.
Siwe, do you want to answer?
Sure. I think what Geshi had mentioned in terms of the like big transnational organizations, that was the only limitation in terms of organizations that may have capacity to implement such projects on their own, but there's no limit in terms of the organization's income. Yeah, there's no really a cap in terms of the income that the organization is receiving in terms of their finances or their budget. What we did ask to indicate in your application is how you would manage this fund. So it's really just about that and understanding your organization's financial management structure. So that's speaking to that requirement. I'm not sure if that's answered your question, Subilo. Okay, great. Emmanuel, I see your hand up. You can come in and ask your question.
All right, thank you so much. I want to confirm if I'm audible. My name is Emmanuel Sani from Nigeria. I work with ProMad Foundation. I would love to confirm if a project that is currently in its implementation stage, if that's still fine, if the projects like that are still will still be funded by this grant. And I would also love to confirm in the situation where you carry out your project and you have like let's say there are some balance from the grant that was not utilized. So I'd love to confirm if this grant is a zero budget grant that you must spend everything, or what happens where you don't spend everything in the particular amount given. Thank you so much.
Betty, can you respond to that?
Sorry, and maybe I'll respond to one that's online as well, because I was just typing a response. So I think this is partly, if I understood it correctly, a question that relates to something somebody was also asking about whether people can, whether we're looking for, you know, existing projects, or whether if people have sort of early stage ideas, can they still go for it? So it's a 12-month grant period, and in that 12 months, if you saw that journey that Joseph spoke about, it is projects that need to be able to get to pilot stage. It means that if your project is very early stage, it's just an idea, or it's sort of what we call a seed stage, or you're still exploring and you're still trying to see whether you can get proof of concept, that is too early to be coming in for this kind of funding. It's really not the kind of funding that allows you to begin doing research about an innovation. It probably needs to be something that is already in development, something where within a short period of time, you're really able to begin testing it out and piloting it in communities and working towards sustainability. Because in a 12-month period, you're not going to go from idea to having an innovation, therefore you are not likely to be selected. So I think it is an assumption that the full amount of money will be spent in the 6 months, and the project cycle in that sense would be completed within the project period, and that's what would be evaluated. There is a fairly ambitious target for the grant, which is that by the end of it, all or most of the ideas will actually be on the ground and demonstrating sustainability and already beginning to demonstrate some evidence of impact. So this is not for very early stage innovations.
I'm just checking in the Q&A if there's any more questions. Can county students-based organizations apply for, and should the project be an idea stage or implementation stage? I think Geshi has just spoken to that and addressed that. Okay, I see Emmanuel, you have your hand up, I think.
Yes, the second phase of my question was trying to confirm that during the implementation of the project, what happens to the remaining funds? Let's say there are remainder funds that has not been utilized. What happens to them, whether it's a zero budget kind of grant, or what do we do? What do organizations do at that particular point? Thank you.
Sorry, Steve, I wonder if you could repeat the question. I think I missed something.
Yeah, I was trying to confirm what happens where you try to implement and there are some leftovers of the money granted. What happens there then during that period? Should it be utilized for another project, or what would the organization do at that particular point?
So I believe the contracts will likely mirror what the primary contracts we have with the funder, and any funds that are left over would have to be returned. So it's not as though you would get to keep leftover funds to continue doing the work. So the project period, when the project period ends, if they're unutilized funds, they would have to be returned.
Okay, thank you so much.
I see a question, Geshi, in the chat. Just want to respond to it in terms of if there's a particular format of the proposals. Yes, we have shared a link, and Geshi did mention that we'll only be accepting applications through the application forms that we have sent through. Patrick, I see your hand up. Please come in and ask your question. I think this, yeah, Patrick, come in and ask your question. Thanks. Franz, could you unmute? Okay, great.
Good evening, wherever you are. Yes, hello everyone. I am Patrick Samuels from Sierra Leone, and I happen to be a founder of Star Catch Up Salon. And my question is, is this grant focused on community-based projects, tech projects, or it could also be a cross-border project?
Sorry, did you say community-based projects, or I didn't get the last part of your question?
Yeah, yes. Is it a community-based tech project, or what I mean by that, is it just for local projects, or it could also be a cross-border?
Great. I think because of what we are trying to do with the African Union Civic Tech Fund is try to expand and scale different innovations. I think the project would definitely support something that's trying to expand the reach and work across different contexts, especially if you're scaling a certain innovation that's addressing needs that might be, or issues that are being faced in different contexts. So that would definitely be acceptable. As part of some of the requirements, we actually are looking for initiatives that are trying to do exactly what you're explaining, Patrick. Thanks for the question.
Siwe, sorry, I see there's another hand, but just there are a couple of questions, I think, that were also about particular kind of science projects or agriculture projects and those kinds of projects, whether you're eligible for the grant. If you're not already familiar, please just go through the website and go through the CTIN website to learn a little bit about what is the civic tech space and what does it mean to have innovations that are really digital innovations. And if your initiative matches that criteria, then please feel free to put it forward. If it clearly doesn't, so if you're doing some kind of really a tool that, for example, is an agriculture digging tool that's perhaps a mechanized tool that has absolutely nothing to do with anything digital, then obviously what you will see is that that does not align to what the grant is trying to do. So please do look at the application areas can be broad. So it is possible to have civic tech innovations that are in the agriculture space, but not everything in the agriculture space is a digital innovation that is suitable to civic tech. So please do the homework in terms of just seeing whether there's alignment between what you are proposing as the innovation as well as the application area for the innovation and what the grant is seeking to do. So I think that covers those questions.
Great, thanks, Geshi. I just want to pick up a question in the chat. How will the 15 grantees be selected from a regional basis, perhaps like 3 from East Africa, 5 from Southern Africa, etc.? If I could just quickly respond to that, there are different criteria, as you've been saying, for the selection of the projects. And there are different priorities that we are also setting in terms of the selection process that Geshi was speaking to earlier. So we will prioritize, firstly, candidates that have obviously the highest score and the best quality of the application itself, but also then secondly, we'll prioritize candidates from underrepresented contexts, marginalized locations, and then thirdly, speaking to the gender distribution, and then lastly, younger candidates. So there's a different prioritization profile that we've developed, and we do take candidates from underrepresented contexts and locations as the second priority, aside from the quality of the actual application. I see Linda has a question. You can come in and unmute with your question, Linda.
Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. And this was a wonderful presentation. I was wondering about, because I am from Cameroon, but I travel a lot and my company is registered in the United States. Would I be able, and I just registered it this year, would I be able to apply for the grant, or does the company have to be registered in Africa? Because I do qualify for all the other qualifications that you mentioned. It's a tech innovation. It's at its infancy. It needs funding in order to grow. It's for civic. It's to help women to get into tech. So we help them land their dream jobs in tech. That's the goal. And we help women from all around the world. And our main, so far we've had women from Zimbabwe, Kenya, and Cameroon. So we haven't even had anybody from the United States, but it's just that the company is registered there.
Okay, I think I can answer that one. Linda, unfortunately, as you can imagine, there are many examples of organizations on the continent that are doing relevant work, but are not African organizations. And so I think the unfortunate, based on the criteria as we have it, you would have to you'd have to have an African organization to register or to apply. Unfortunately, it's just very difficult for us to distinguish between an organization like yours that might be African but chose to register outside and any other international organization that could also be doing project work in Africa. And so I think the rules on that are therefore fairly straightforward, that the only eligible organizations are African organizations, which means that they have to hold primary registration here. So what I would suggest to you is if your work is, as you said, 100% based here, maybe work through one of your partners for an application, but you would not be able to, I think you will find yourself ineligible if you apply as an African NPO, as an American NPO, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I think we've exhausted the Q&A, Geshi. I've picked up some questions that we'll add onto our FAQ questions on our website. Just a couple of questions that we maybe were not able to answer in terms of applying for 2 ideas as one organization, and any other questions that we weren't able to answer will be shared on the FAQ on our website. I wonder if this would be the best moment to take a closing selfie, Geshi. We didn't capture the second page of the participants.
Yes, if colleagues don't mind. When we took that first photo, and I know some people have now left, we've probably lost about 30 people already, but we only, I believe we only got photos of the first screen, and there are multiple screens. So if you're still here and you want to participate in a photo shoot, if we could just ask our tech host to unpin, I think the information has been shared. We'll put it on the chat as well. The website is there. The email contact is there. As suggested, please do look at the form as well as the FAQs and the assisting resources before you send questions, because your issues may already be answered. But if you have genuinely new questions and they're not covered, please do feel free to reach out. So I think we're going to just invite those who are still here and are willing to open their cameras. I think the tech host has given you permission to, or we'll do so just now. And we'll just take photos of a good start, and hopefully we'll have a good end as well at the end of all of this. So thank you. We'll just ask you to hold for a few minutes though, because we have to sort of flip screens to get to the multiple screens. I'll ask the team perhaps to assist with taking the photos. I'm just going to do a countdown. So when I say 1, 2, 3, cheese, just hold your cheese for a minute, okay? Okay, so 1, 2, 3. That we're getting photos being taken. I'm gonna try and skip ahead as well and take one as well. Thanks, everybody. I'm seeing some wonderful laughs. The spirit of the project is great. We hope you're all really excited. We look forward to your applications. If today you realized it's not you, but maybe it's organizations you know or people that you're working with that are eligible, please pass it on, pass it widely. We want this to be as successful as possible, not just for us as individual organizations, but obviously for Africa. And so please share widely, please submit your applications, and we wish you all the best. Cheers, everybody. Are we closing? See, where are we closing? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Go
everyone.
Well. Bye. Joy, 12th May. 12th May is the closing. Bye.
you.